Hi everybody, this is Diane at Pretty Pink Cottage. I am here to show you these two Stash Buster journals. Please excuse my voice, I am not well today, but I did want to do the flip through. I've been resting today, but I did sew these together while I was watching TV. So let's just go through these. If you do not like eclectic journals, you will not like these books. They are very eclectic. They are just full of all kinds of stuff. There's no theme, no color vibe. Just on the cover, I tried to, there's lots of colors on the covers, but I tried to keep them so that they just all look good together. So this cover is orange and yellow, and it has greens. So I used those colors in the pieces of fabric that I played with. And the bright yellow rickrack. So this is made with a science book, Learning in Science, and it does contain a few of the pages from this book. I probably won't speak a great deal because I'll stop myself off coughing if I do. Just a pretty bright lined scrapbook paper to line the end paper, and this was gifted to me, a little Linus bookplate. It says from the library of. I added some washi tape. I did quite a bit of embellishing, but they're simple embellishments because I wanted to use up some of my stuff. That's what a stash buster is. So I just added stuff to your pages, but I will also be including a packet of embellishments, and I left them in the other room. I left them in my office. But you will get a bunch of stuff that you can add to the pages. This is one of the pages from the teacher's portion. The back of the book had the teacher's, just for the teacher to use. I can't think of words. This is a fun page. This is also from a school paper, just a record book. It was a very big record book that I got at the Salvation Army for teachers to keep track of various pieces of information. And I sewed on this little journaling card. It says things to do. And then I collaged on this large playing card. And you can write here, you can write on the back. And I just paper clipped it in there to help hold it. It's a little ledger. I do have some clusters that were made and sent to me in a happy mail, just pieces of paper that were glued to a backing piece of paper and then torn into various shapes and sizes, so they were fun to include. You'll see a few of them, and I just put a little journaling card in there. We did some stamping on solid color cardstock of journaling spots, so you'll see quite a few of them. This is a page from the electronics book that I'll be going through next. This was also sent to me, this decorated bag, and I included this tag that I made quite a while ago. I love these calendar pages. This is an envelope, and I just glued an elephant from a children's book on there. I love little elephants. And there's a whist card in there. These pieces go inside the envelope. I just glued them closed. So I was just letting them dry before I reinserted the cards. These books allowed me to use some of my larger digital pieces. This is one of my own digitals. I used to own the original, but I think I sold it. This is a piece that I had stamped and did the background ink on it. And there's just one of these cards in there. This is from a children's book. Here's a piece of lace that was sewn to blue fabric. And I had this in my stash, just some playing around I was doing with stamps one day. So I thought I would use a few of those pieces, and this is from the electronics book. You can tear or cut those pieces out and use them for collage. There's another one of those pages. I love this. It came out of a children's book. I cut her out and glued her to cardstock and made her a little tuck spot. And this is just a scrap, cut off piece of scrapbook paper. And I think that color just sets her off nicely. It's one of the clusters that we made. This is a Tsunami Rose perpetual calendar card. Space for journaling there. Some more pages that you can write on. This opens right up. So there's lots of room for writing. And I made this young lady on the phone with my Cricut. And she's light blue on the back, so you could write on her or glue her down in your book somewhere. This is a vintage address book page and vintage ticket. I think that this piece was adhered to a card that someone sent me in a Happy Mail, and this was the card that was made out to me, and there was a greeting on the circle part. And I saved this part because I thought I could use it in a journal. So I had removed the greeting and I just glued down this fussy cut digital. Makes a nice little corner tuck. There's another one of those clusters and a journal card that I'd made quite a while ago. This was fun. It's just a couple of punched ledger pages. They're scrapbook papers. And I just put eyelets on them to attach them together and to the page. You can remove, you can remove the brad, and you can write on the backs of them if you want to, or just write on the front. From a children's book, of course. That's an Eloise Wilkin illustration. It's another one of the pages I was playing with stamps and ink and water. This is from the science book, this book. One of our stamped journaling spots and a Tim Holtz die cut. I got to use even bigger ones. This is from Tsunami Rose, and I added a vintage ticket there. This one I used that coffee dyed, the paper that I glued coffee dyed paper strips. Scrap paper that was cut in strips. I just glued them all lined up on the back of this paper and glued it to the back of that. Sorry, trying to make sense. From the science book. This is a paper ruffle that I made a long time ago, and I have it just hanging on a shelf in here, and I forget about it. So I used a couple pieces, one in this book and one in the other. Postage stamp. And the last signature. It has one of the nursery rhyme quiz pages in it. It's blank on the back, so you can journal on that. Another postage stamp. I love this one with the glassware on it. Love this ruffly piece here. It shows sticking out of the book when it's closed. This was made for me, this piece, and this book was big enough to contain it. So I had this big tag in my stash that I had done a long time ago. It's embossed, it's got metallic paint on it, and some of the Tim Holtz tissue. I did have to trim the sides of it in order to fit into this pocket. I'll put something in there. Science book page. This was a pocket that I had in my ready-made stash. So I just filled it with some cards to write on. And this is one of the postcards that my daughter-in-law just gave me. I just glued a playing card down here. A couple of cards in there. Another pocket that I had made. This is one of those shopping lists. I cut off it said June at the top. And it was too long anyway, so I cut that off, and it makes a perfect journaling spot for the back of that envelope. Here's a leftover Mrs. Coggs image of flower children. I glued it to cardstock to give it a little bit of a matte, and then put a time card in there that I cut the bottom of it off. I was thinking one of those cards belongs somewhere else, but they're all going to stay in here. This is just something I had stamped. It's been in my stash. Just layered a bunch of different stamps with a couple of different colors. And I thought it was a great thing to decorate the back of that envelope. And an envelope that I had decorated, window envelope, and I put this card in there with the pretty lady that shows through the window. You can write on the back. It is glossy. Oh, there's a pocket right here too. You could tuck something in there. And a pocket behind it. Now on the back I had glued this plastic envelope with the little flap here, but it came right off. The glue didn't stick to the plastic. I used Fabri-Tac, but it didn't stick. So I sewed, I opened up the flap, and I sewed it to a piece of fabric all around, as close to the edge as I could, so I didn't take up pocket space. And then now it's secure, and I glued the fabric to the back. And it's just a cut off piece of cardstock in there. And I glued one of my embellishments on it. This one is Learning in Science. And it's got that nice bright orange color. This one has a nice bright green color, and it's called Technical Electricity and Electronics. I'll probably just call it electronics in my shop. So I've got some fabric collaged here. As I told you, the paper was torn on the cover, so I had to cover it up. And I added this vintage, well, maybe it's not vintage, but it's a yo-yo. And just some patchwork pieces back there just for fun. They're not covering anything. Well, there was a little bit of blue. You can see a little blue there. There were some bigger marks up there, so I did cover that with it. And there's the fabric I used, and the yellow rickrack again. This one has a lime green striped paper, but it doesn't cover the whole end paper because I wanted to leave this part here. It was all clean and nice. Nobody had written on it. And I just added this that was punched out of a book. Gilbert and Sullivan card for HMS Pinafore characters. That was a fun find at a flea market. Opryland USA playing card. This is from the science book. I'll put fiber in that also, or a seam binding. This is a digital. It's a vintage magazine ad. There's a whist card in there. This is a German children's card. Cards in there. This one's a digital. Love the colors on that. I love this ad. I told a whole story about it in my last journal video. One of the videos that went with the creation of these journals. I love this poppy on this mint green plaid. Pretty. This was left over from a Traveler's Notebook digital that I had used quite a while ago, and it had lines on it, so I included that as a little text spot, but there are lines for writing. And here's another one of those pages that I was playing with ink, and a page from the electronics book. There's an elephant from a children's book with the green striped paper. I did have his trunk glued down, but it just popped up, just the very tip of his trunk, just to protect it. I don't want it getting bent. Maybe it'll pop up again, who knows. Make sure it's not sticky before I close the book. Sorry, the cap to my glue just fell on my lap and onto the floor, and I want to cap my glue. Okay. It's another lady you can draw right on, or glue her down somewhere. I think this was cut from a collage board, like a master board. And that's a tiny little tag with this sewing pattern tissue and this image. And I'll put a fiber in there also. I love these birds. Cut them out of a book and then put them on cardstock and inserted these little tags. She's so cute. Another little tag in there. Oh, I missed this one when I went through and glued. I'll just let that dry before I put the card back in. came from a book. And this is a file folder that I embellished with ink and stamps. I needed a contrast between this piece and this piece, so I added this strip of red to it. There's the other piece of pleated paper. And on this, I glued this butterfly specimen card that I had received in a Happy Mail. It's quite thick. I glued it on as a tuck spot, and there's the nursery rhyme quiz in this book. This is from a children's book. Oh, sorry, I was checking my watch, my Fitbit. It's a number, you can hear my phone ringing. That can go to voicemail. This came from a children's nursery rhyme book, and it was quite sturdy paper, so I didn't back it to anything. There's a paint chip and a slang card in there. I really like the colors on this one. So I just put different inks on my stamp and then spritzed it with water and then stamped it. I like that blurred effect. This is a pocket, a book page pocket that I had made a while ago. It was in my stash. I just inserted some little digital cards and whatnot. Couple of cards in there. Has Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on this side, and then the other days are on the other side. This is a little envelope that someone made for me out of a book page and vellum, and then they embellished it. I just tucked it right in there. Two cards in there. I added washi tape to the end of that. I put one of the clusters that I received in the Happy Mail on the flap of this. I just had to trim a little bit off the top. And there's another lady with a phone, a young lady. Just glued her on as a tuck spot. And then this one has a smaller envelope, and again I glued it or sewed it to fabric and put a cut-off scrapbook paper in there. And I will put my signature on the back of those. So I have just a few finishing touches to do. Just do the signature and add some fibers, and then these books are done. I may add a strip of fabric around them. They don't really need it right now, but if you start gluing more stuff in it, they might. So there they are, Learning in Science and Electronics. These are really fun and eclectic and colorful and everything but the kitchen sink type of journals, and I have so much fun making these. I hope you had fun looking through them with me, and I will see you in the next video. Have a creative day today. Bye-bye.